Continuing with deck profiles from the newest set of BT22 Cyber Eden, after exploring the potential of CS, I had to start the same amount of testing on other decks as well. And with Nokia Shiramine making her return to the card game, you bet a lot of players are going to be trying to max raritying this deck. And trust me, with cards from previous sets, it's about to get expensive. Per the usual, this deck is something that I've been testing, but want to stress that this looks at mainly the mechanics and interactions that take some of the guesswork out for you. Ultimately, these deck profiles aren't meant for you to just copy and use, but rather to think about the choices before assembling your own. As always, if you enjoy these types of videos, do consider liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and hitting that notification bell for more future content. BT22 introduces a slew of new support cards, but overall, there are 6 new cards that you'll be wanting to hunt for to build this deck. But unlike my last video, if you did want to build a pure Omnimon deck with BT22, this is not the video for that discussion. As much as I started looking into it, my OCD told me to go back to a purist approach. With the newest Agumon, this Digimon has an on-play effect, in which you may return one card with Greymon, Garurumon, or Omnimon in its name from your trash to the hand. The inheritable for this Digimon is a typical end-of-turn DNA Digivolve. Likewise, Gabumon shares this same inheritable, but on-play reveals the top 3 cards, and adds one card with Omnimon in its text, and one card with the CS trait among them to the hand. Meaning you could be adding Omnimon himself, or one of the level 6s since they have Omnimon in their inheritable. But for the CS, you could still add any of these 3 cards, in addition to the rookies themselves, or even Nokia Shiramine. This searcher is extremely valuable to the deck, and there are many ways to recur it too. But the level 6s is where you now have the added benefit of being able to warp Digivolve with the singular condition of having a specific tamer in play. For wargreymon and metalgarurumon, both these Digimon can Digivolve off their level 3 counterparts for a cost of 6 if you have Nokia Shiramine in play. Both also provide an effect that lets you Digivolve the other's respective level 3 into their level 6, but also have secondary effects if you want to sequence into a particular order. Wargreymon can now delete the lowest DP Digimon, while metalgarurumon returns one of the opponent's Digimon at the lowest level to the hand. And of course, their inheritables are of repeats of those from BT17, in which you either trash security, or unsuspend if this Digimon has Omnimon in its name. But when you migrate to the newest Omnimon, this Digimon has Blocker, and decodes a red-black level 3 and a blue-yellow level 3. When attacking, you delete one of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest DP. And also in Digivolving, for every 2 same level cards this Digimon stack has, you return one of your opponent's Digimon to the bottom of the deck. Meaning with your stack of 3s and 6s, that's a minimum 2 Digimon returned, and then 1 deleted on attack. But the damage isn't done yet because Nokia Shiramine returns as a super rare tamer that is dual colored and a memory fixer. Start of main and on play, if you have 1 or fewer Digimon, you may play one Agumon or Gabumon from your hand without paying the cost. Not to mention, she is also giving a plus 1000 DP to all your Greymon, Garurumon, and Omnimon named Digimon. Luckily, I'm glad this tamer isn't like Davis and Ken, in which that the played Digimon is returned to the hand at the start of the next turn. And while there isn't a way to play her in this particular deck, the overall style can set up very aggressive plays that can clean your opponent's security by turn 2 or 3. For instance, raising into a Koromon from BT14 is very convenient for the fact that this Digimon draws you a card when its security is knocked out of security once per turn. And with Gabumon or Agumon being able to Digivolve on top of this, it's honestly great consistency. Ideally, I like setting up Agumon in the back, and then playing Nokia Shiramine to play out a Gabumon to do more search. Whether Gabumon is deleted or not, setting up Nokia is one of the crucial plays because on the following turn, if the Gabumon is not deleted, you could use Nokia to play out another Agumon and conduct your search. Finding your pieces is crucial, and being fast to get there is another. In this particular example, the Agumon from BT12 can only add a Greymon or Omnimon, and a tamer with Taikamiya in its name. But the filter range is 4 cards, which is extremely important. Again, I'll talk about substitutes during the core deck profile. Now, even though you only have 3 memory to play with, what honestly helps is that the Gabumon's end of turn DNA effect. And assuming you added the metalgarurumon and wargreymon during your last filter, you can now pay a memory of 6 in order to warp either into their level 6 forms to then warp into the other. And although you've passed turn, Gabumon's effect can now activate to DNA Digivolve into Omnimon from the hand. And remember, with the newest Omnimon, you can bounce 2 Digimon to the bottom of the deck, and then attack. And when you attack, you delete one of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest DP. Frankly, this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to combos, because there's so much you can do depending on how you build the deck. Utilizing new tamers like Taikamiya and Madishida from EX9, you can regain memory when your Digimon completes Digivolution. which means if you have 2 of these tamers out, you can effectively keep the memory on your turn. But why is this important? The answer, of course, is mainly in the form of Omnimon Alter S. If you can somehow retain turn, Omnimon Alter S also gains immunity from all your opponent's effects for the turn, meaning security and blast Digivolution don't mean a thing. And remember, the end of attack trigger is an optional effect, which means you can still effectively trash one security and do security damage before you send Omnimon Alter S to the top of the security and play back out the level 6s. Doing so means you can go into a second one to clear the last security before going for game. But for the cards that you want to be on the lookout for, be wary of cards like Gatsumon, who can prevent your Digimon from being played by card effects, and of course Floodgates that can prevent you from ignoring Digivolution requirements. Now with all that said and done, let's dive right into the deck profile. For the level 2s, I'm strictly on Koromon here. This Digimon can draw you a card when your opponent's security is removed from. And remember, this means that when you check security, your Digimon must survive up to the point where battle calculation is performed. If an option card or Digimon effect removes your Digimon, then you won't be able to draw. This ruling follows similar patterns to Wargreymon X and Magnamon X when it comes to security removal. But other than that, there isn't a red egg I honestly like. With the level 3s, you run a lot of them. And honestly, a majority of them are for the end of turn DNA inheritable. The only level 3s I suggest maximizing on are the newest CS trait ones because they're all on-play effects that work with Nokia Shiramine. The addition of BT12 agumons also help with this since it's also an on-play effect and can also search for your tamers with Tai Kamiya in their names. But largely, the Agumon from BT17 is dependent on having a tamer with Tai in play, and likewise, the Gabumon from BT17 is also dependent on having Mat in play. Searcher-wise, I felt a smidge partial to wanting to run the old BT5 Agumon and Gabumon since they can potentially add 2 cards versus 1. But the downside is there is no end of turn inheritable. Bright side, as long as you get the other one to have that end of turn DNA, you're golden. While you could run the BT17 Greymon, personally there's just other elements you could run in the deck to help you with your strategy. True, you can use Greymon to play out your tamers with Tai Kamiya in their name, but its on deletion effect only grants you an extra breeding hatch or playing a tamer. Not both. Ultimately, because of this, you skip the 4s and 5s and jump straight into the Mega level Digimon. Which means outside of the 4 Wargreymons and metalgarurumons, the last level 6s are their BT17 counterparts who aren't as powerful but can be played for a cost of 8 if you have a tamer with Mat Ishida or Tai Kamiya in play. Doing so means that Wargreymon could delete an 8000 DP or less Digimon, or one of your Gabumon Digivolves into metalgarurumon. Because I have a higher number of Agumons, ultimately I felt it more appropriate to have more Wargreymons as well, in line with the ratios. metalgarurumon on the other hand stuns a Digimon or tamer from suspending when it's played or digivolved into. But for substitutions, honestly I'd probably only tinker with the ratios of the level 6s at this point with what I value more: play cost reduction or ignoring the Digivolution requirements. For Omnimons, this is where players will deviate heavily on their decks in regards to ratios. As I mentioned, while true you can only tackle 3 security damage with an Alter S, the upside is you can play back out the level 6s and then do it again for more damage. But the newest CS Omnimon is fine for an endgame finisher. Likewise, for a more defensive approach, you could run the Omnimon Ace from BT17. As a one-of, I don't think it's terrible, but any more than that and I think I'm running into potential overflow problems. As for Omnimon Alter B, you could run this, but I think at this point I feel like it falls in line with a win more card. Omnimon X is kind of in the same boat. Could you run these? You definitely could. When exploring the option cards, there are primarily 3 for discussion. Miraculous Mega Knight is huge in this deck, and while you can't ignore the color requirements, all of your tamers effectively make this live when they're out. Not to mention you can use the 2 memory to play out an Agumon or Gabumon for searching, and then climb up the conventional chain. It also sets up all your other DNA Omnimons into traps for your opponent. But while Omnimon Alter S can play back out your level 6s, when this happens, the level 3s go to the trash, which means you can use this option card to play these back out and start setting up a secondary stack. Other considerations were Wisteria Memory Boost, since it finds everything but your tamers, and it can provide a 2 memory delay. But the last and final option card that put in some work for initial testing was Island of Adventure. This option card can swap cards with the top security card, and then give you a plus 2000 DP buff for all your Digimon. And considering its color requirements could be ignored, it's not terrible. But the real value from this is playing a tamer card from your hand without paying the cost when it's hit in security. And this is one way you can cheat out Nokia Shiramine if you really need to. Tamer-wise, you mandatory need to run the 4 new Nokia Shiramines for the memory fixing, color value, and playing out another rookie if you have 1 or less. But tie-in mats can be variants from BT17 which allow your Omnimon to end of turn attack, and also gain you back a memory each if you have a Digimon with Greymon and Garurumon in its name. Likewise, the EX9 variant does massive work in the recycling department, and also draws you a card if you don't use it. Though with multiple copies of these cards on board, it's just a lot of value. Ultimately, I consider the old BT5 Nokia mainly because it's another tamer with Nokia Shiramine in its name. It plays an agumon or gabumon, and also reduces Digivolution costs. But for space constraints and color needs, I just had to opt out of it for the time being. Again, I don't think this is necessarily the best version of DNA Omnimon, but I do think it's a place for you to start, and consider your options on where to take yours. Generally, do you think Omnimon has been elevated to meta contender? Or do you think it's still overshadowed for its individual identity, and is more so a team player in Royal Knights? Let me know your thoughts as always on your changes, what you liked or disliked, and I'll catch you on more content this week. This is DIGI-PANDA, logging out.